And good afternoon once again. How is everybody? I'm David Steele, your host. Welcome back to another edition of Real Talks. So, this is the second edition. Um, this is the second week that I'm doing this relatively new show, um, and it's called Ask Me Anything. So, hey, Dad, how are you? So, Ask Me Anything is basically a little show that started to develop, and it's where you, the viewer, are going to be able to ask me pretty much anything you want. So, anybody who knows or was here last week already knows, but for everybody who's just tuning in, there's three things that's off limits: uh, politics, abortion, and religion. Everything else is a fair game, whether it's sports or whether it's art or whether it's movies or cooking or whatever it is, favorite foods, favorite colors, doesn't matter. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much an open book. Um, and that goes for other things too. So, I mean, those were just a few things I named, but I think that, you know, I like to get to know my viewers, and I'd like to have you guys get to know me. So, and by the way, guys, I just put up. It's actually finishing uploading right now, or maybe live. I'm not sure. Um, the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny spoilercast. So I went to go see that this morning. Um, I went to go see an 8:50 show. So I saw that in IMAX, and because I said I was going to do this for you guys, anyways. And I've had a very rough week trying to get back into the swing of things, and subsequently, um, because I didn't do it yesterday, I wanted to do it today for you guys. So um, so earlier this week, I was on um, Matt Jarbo's stream, and he usually streams at night, and it's usually about an hour, hour and a half. Anyways, he fell asleep, so I ended up doing an improv two stream at night, and then when he woke up, it was around 10:30. So I was on with a couple other people. You can actually go to his channel and find it if you want. It's Hollywood After Dark, $3 theater, and subsequently I was on his stream for probably 3, 4 hours. By the time the stream was done, guys, it was 4 a.m. on the Pacific Coast. It was a long night, and that just really, really messed me up. Is there a favorite sports player you have met or wanted to meet? Hmm. Favorite sports player? Um, so I'm a big sports fan. Um, I don't know if there's anybody I'd want to meet. I mean, obviously, there's obvious choices out there: Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, LeBron James. Um, I maybe Larry Bird. I mean, I'm from Boston originally. Like what he did during that time, um, winning 3 championships maybe Tom Brady. Yeah, I would probably say Tom Brady because of his remarkable career and everything else. I mean, there are very few athletes where you can actually say they are the GOAT. They are the greatest of all time. I never like to put the label greatest of all time on there because throughout the 100 years or 120 years of sport, um, it's one of those things where you have your athletes that are so exceptional and so remarkable, they're head and shoulders above the rest. Whether it's Bobby Orr or Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux or whoever it is that you have, you know, because we tend to quantify everything, okay? Whether it's Oscars or um, whether it's, you know, championships or whatever it is. So, but yeah, probably if I were going to say one person, I would say Tom Brady. Boston going there. Oh, nice, nice. How long are you staying? Because it's a cool city. It really is a cool city. I mean, there's a lot of history and everything else, but it's fun. But I'll say this you know during the winter, that's one thing I hated about Boston was the snow. I would rather take summers out in Boston and winters out here because the thing is, Shoveling, I hated shoveling snow. Hated it. So, July 2nd marks the 20th anniversary of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. And I wanted to ask you, did you like the film? I know it's diverse involved, probably. I haven't seen it. I really can't, I couldn't really comment. I know it's gotten a lot of flack over the years um, because of bad storyline and everything else. But no, I haven't seen it. So and by the way, that's awesome that it's your personal favorite because it has a sentimental value to you, and I think that's the important thing. I mean, I've always said it, movies are memories, and it's one of those things where you may like this movie and somebody else may not, but and that's the thing too. I mean, movies tend to do that. But no, to your point, Antonius, I have not seen it, so I could not speak to that. Friday through Monday, yeah, cool. Enjoy it. Enjoy the stay. There's a lot to do there. If you have time to really hang out and take care of have a whole day spending sightseeing Boston Common and Quincy Market, and those are a blast. Those are an absolute blast. I mean, I've been to Fenway a couple times, and that was good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I have. Thing is, I would love to go back to Boston. It's just nothing out there for me. There's like nothing out there for me. So, I mean, I'm a 90-minute plane ride from Vegas. So it's one of those things where I'd rather go to Vegas and relax and you know play cards and maybe um, have a chance to win some money than Boston. It's just, I mean, maybe I'll go back at some point, but I don't have any plans in the near future. But I mean, I'd like to travel too. I mean, I went to New York. It was kind of a somber time, like 6 months after 9/11. Um, I've been to, I've been to a couple places. I mean, nothing outside the continental United States, but um, whenever I have time, whenever I have money, yeah, absolutely. Because I think traveling gives you a different perspective too. And I've been down to Florida. I mean, when my mother passed, 4 or 5 years ago, um, I just everybody grieves differently. So I was just starting to get into golf and everything else. So I took all my sick time and all my vacation time, and I went down to Florida. I spent 2 weeks down in Florida, and I was playing golf like every single day. Um, and then I went to Vegas. I played golf for a week. So, but it was one of those things where you can do it and just enjoy it. Then, you know, since you like poker, who would you like to go head to head, fictional or real, or do you have a dream final table? Um, I think so. My favorite movie is Rounders. As a matter of fact, that's coming up on its 25th anniversary. And stay tuned, guys. So Chad Holloway, who I've interviewed on the channel, okay, you guys can go back and watch the interview. Um, he's actually won a World Series of Poker bracelet, and he's now writing one of the head guys for Poker News. Outstanding fellow. Um, and he's a great guy to boot. So we had a great time. So, anyways, the reason I bring that up, Rounders. And by the way, guys, if you want a cool movie, I'm not just saying this from a poker point of view. If you want a cool movie to watch that's got a stacked cast, check out Rounders. Matt Damon, Edward Norton, John Malkovich, John Turturro. Um, it's just a stacked cast. So to your point, who would fictional or real? Doyle Brunson would definitely be there. I think Phil Hellmuth. Um, I think uh, maybe Stu Unger. I mean, there's a couple of like amazing, amazing players. And then I wouldn't mind going head to head with Matt Damon. Checking that out. But I mean, he's that movie completely started the poker boom. But yeah, so I think, but if I were going to go, yeah, I would say those three. Stu Unger, Phil Hellmuth, because Hellmuth has the most bracelets, and it was a different time when he played. And then, of course, The Godfather, which, unfortunately, we just lost a couple of months ago in Doyle Brunson. He was a classic. Did you know that Michelle Pfeiffer has bigger screen time in Batman Returns than Michael Keaton? She's in for 33 minutes, and he's, yeah, that is crazy. I did not know that, and that is crazy. I mean, it's one of those things where it's not much, but it's one of those things where you go, wow. And I think if I'm right, okay, so it might have been the third movie. That's the third movie. Batman Returns is a sequel, right? Yes, it is. Batman Returns is a sequel. That was the one with Danny DeVito. Yeah, I really like that one. It's fun. When you go back and watch these, it's just, you know, it's a blast to actually watch and go. I mean, considering the DC product that's out now, it's nuts. Also, just wanted to say thank you for how kind and respectful you are to the questions and the opinions of others. Personally, it's something rare to say. Well, you're welcome. You don't have to thank me for that. I'm just, it's. I always, you never have to thank me for that, Antonius, because it's one of those things where I will, I will always speak the truth, and sometimes it's unpopular, but I'll always respect you. And that's why I always say, like, film is subjective and everything, because I know nobody's ever going to agree with me. Okay. And that this is why I say when I do these, there are very few topics, politics, abortion related, because everybody has their own views. I will talk to blue in the face about anything, but no, you're welcome. I mean, it's one of those things where, and we don't see that enough in the world too, right? I mean, we live in a world now where it's like everybody's at each other's throats for one reason or another. Okay. Now I'll call out bullshit. I will call it bullshit, plain and simple. But I'll never disrespect you. Okay. If and if the thing is, if I'm going to try and change your opinion, I'm going to try and change with facts. I'm not just going to, I don't like that. No, I'll say, look, here's why I don't like that, or here's, that's one of the running, um, not arguments, topics I have with a couple of people on film Twitter is that Tom Cruise is the last movie star we have. And people say, you're out of your mind, Tom Cruise. I said, yeah, because nobody else does what he does for the business but Tom Cruise. There's nobody. Leonardo DiCaprio is his own star himself. Yet he's won an Academy Award. Yes, he's done monumental work with Martin Scorsese and everything else. But has he literally done everything that he's not headlined a franchise for? And by the way, franchises for 25 years, you don't have to do that. I mean, these guys like Keanu Reeves and Matt Damon when he did Bourne and Mission, you don't have to do that, but it elevates you. But when you go back and see the behind the scenes stuff, and you sit down and watch it, go, wow, that's what blows me away. There is nobody out, and he puts butts in seats, and he says, "Hey, listen, this is the theatrical experience. This is why I do this." And he's, he's selfless. And then when you have people like Netflix say what they say, it's a total 100% opposite. So that's why. But no, you're welcome. It's not that big of a thing. Robert Pattinson has the most 97. Yeah, I believe that. Well, here's the thing. Two things. Number one, it's a 3-hour film. The Batman is a 3-hour film. Number two, and I suspect when we get to Batman Part 2, I suspect we're going to see much more Bruce Wayne than we will Batman. Because in this particular film, the Batman, we saw a lot of Batman. But what made it so good was Matt Reeves. It was like Dial of Destiny today. The callbacks were placed perfectly, right? It's the same thing with Batman. Whether it's the statue head, whether it's the car driving up to the funeral, taken right out of the 1966 Batman, whether it's, the interrogation scene with the Riddler right out of The Dark Knight, whatever it is, if you can put them in well, then it's good. I mean, he wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. But I'd like to see more Bruce Wayne than Batman, the next one. So definitely. We can ask you anything you say. So I only have three topics that are off limits, Plush. Abortion, politics, and religion. Everything else is fair game. Everything else is fair game. I'm one of the many who is anticipating Deadpool 3, but do you think the room cameos will saturate the story? Newest rumors change. So I have heard of Channing Tatum as Gambit. Look, I think the thing is this. It depends on how you use the cameos, right? If you use the cameos in a self-serving fashion, okay, and they're part of the story, like a No Way Home, for example, okay, and they're part of the story and they're done well, I don't have a problem with that. Now, on the flip side of the coin, if you have somebody like The Flash, those cameos were completely unneeded. Whether it was the Nicolas Cage one or whether it was the Helen Slater one, whether they were unneeded. Okay, the story wasn't good, so that's why it just didn't work for me. See, getting back to the thing, well, etc. It really depends on the story. It really does depend on the story, Dad. So if he is in it, I would say this. I think that he has to be part of the story. Don't just have him show up to show up. Right. Don't do that. Have him be part of the story. Okay. So I think there's something to be said there. What bugs me too is when it comes to movie talk these days, these kind of disrespectful videos where some channels are trying to turn everything into a gender and are glad with film. It's exhausting. So everybody has opinions, including myself. Okay. And I think the thing is that I have no agenda. I have zero agenda. Okay. I'm not getting paid by Paramount or Warner Brothers. I have zero. I will call a spade a spade. Okay. Every single movie I see, I want it to do well. Okay. But at the same time, what I can't stand, to your point, is I wish people, not you, Antonius, but just people in general, would just take a step back and wait for things to develop. Okay, whether it was a fan casting for Superman Legacy or whatever it is. Okay, everybody wants everything now, and I think that people saying, "Oh, James Gunn has an agenda," or this, and this. Look, he knows what he's doing. Okay, trust him. You may not like the product he puts out, but he's going to put a product out, and that's a big thing. And it depends on it depends on the channel. Channels have agendas. It's that simple. Because at the end of the day, I've always said this. It's not about views. Everybody can come here and view my channel. Okay. It's about repeat views. I want you guys to come back here because you enjoy my content. Okay. Where you enjoy a co-host I have or a guest I have. I don't want you to come back here if you don't feel anything else. And there's a difference. And that's why, yeah, so that's essentially what it comes down to in that respect. Smart. Those are dangerous. No, yeah, and that's why I don't talk about them. That's why they're off limits. I know people have issues with cameos and all, but I don't mind them. My mindset is this. I don't get a chance to see some of these characters in their prime in the theater, so it's special. And that's great. And I agree with that, Antonius. But here's the thing. When cameos are done to sorry about that, guys. It's one thing to further the story. It's another thing to do it just to do it. And I think that's the problem. I would love to see some of these things actually happen. Okay. But you have to use them rare. That's why they're called cameos, right? Because the more that they're in the picture or pictures, the less they become important. But if you use them sparingly every now and then, you go, oh my God, guess who's there? Yeah. And the bigger the star, the bigger the impact they have on it. So, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning domestic total is 250 to 300, international 6. Okay, so right now as it stands, I got this from Variety about a week ago. Right now, it's tracking at $90 million to open. So, and they're going to be opening on the 12th, not the 14th. So they're going to get 2 extra days. But I think that internationally, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Especially with Dial of Destiny not doing well. You're still going to have repeat viewing for Indiana Jones, but once the 10th hits, because that's really when they're doing their fan type of thing. But once the 12th hits, look out. This is going to make money hand over fist. I think the 90s, I think it could very easily hit $100 million. But even if it doesn't, let's say it makes 80, that's still a big number. Okay. But also remember this. So internationally, Fallout made 786 worldwide. Okay. Ghost Protocol and the one below that, Rogue Nation, which, by the way, guys, if you want to go back and watch them, they're all up on the channel right now. Those two made very similar numbers. Very similar numbers. So, look, if this is good as advertised, I wouldn't be shocked. The couple of hot takes I'll say is this. I thought that this could be $1 billion movie. That probably won't happen. But 2, the other hot take I had is I would not be shocked if this got a Best Picture nomination. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Will Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty suppress Endgame and Infinity War? Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty should have the most cameo that. No. And I'm going to say, I'll say this. Because you have to remember, Endgame and Infinity War it was the first buildup, right? I mean, we got Iron Man all the way back in 2008, and it took 10 years with over 25 films, with over a multitude of characters, okay, to get to Infinity War. And the thing is, and as a matter of fact, I did a whole 5-year retrospective about Infinity War. And so I was listening with the director's commentary. But the thing about an Infinity War was this. Up until that time, you only saw Thanos 3 times. You saw him at the end of the Avengers. Okay. You saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy with Ronan. And then you saw the cutscene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy saying, fine, I'll do it myself. That's it. And I think the thing is, there was so much buildup and so much, oh my God, now what we're going for, that I think that when we see Thanos right out of the gate in Infinity War, it's huge. And really, at the end of the day, Infinity War was all about Thanos. It was all about Thanos. It was him getting the stones, right? In any manner possible. Endgame, you only saw him a few times. That's it. And the third act, that was it. So what they did, so to your point, Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty, I can't, now that it's getting pushed back, it's really going to be interesting to see how that whole thing works. I think the fact that Kang was introduced in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania hurt it. And I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to put the big bad out there for everybody to see. But just it wasn't the place to put him. Okay. He was in Loki season 1, and that was fine. But because don't forget how Infinity War ended. Okay. They ended that at that plot point of, quote, point of no return. So it's where you think the heroes have lost. I mean, that's where, Steve's on the ground with everybody around him. It's like, oh, God. And that, that was the final shot until we see Thanos on his farm. So it has to be so big. And mind you, don't forget, that was over a 10-year period. Okay? We'll be getting Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. I mean, they're going to be pushing it all back, but still. So I think there's something to be said about it. And that's why it made, don't forget, Infinity War made $250 million opening weekend because there was so much buildup. So much buildup. That's why when it ended, that's why Endgame made $317. Those two films have made almost $5 billion worldwide. So I can't see them, even with cameos and everything else, we're going to know who they are. And yes, the people are going to be looking forward to them, but I don't think there's Kang is not Thanos. He's just not. So if they use him sparingly throughout it, then yeah, but you have to build a villain up, just like they did there. Also glad to hear that Rise of the Beast is doing well. Not great, but for sure. I'm hoping for a sequel personally. Yeah, I think if we get a sequel, we're going to get a crossover sequel. And, I mean, I had my problems with it. I'm not going to lie. I thought the ending was really contrived. I think they could have used that. Okay, that last scene. And spoiler, guys, in case anybody hasn't watched it yet. I think that they could have used that scene when he came in as a cutscene, and that would have blew everybody away. I really do. But I don't know if Anthony Ramos is ready to lead a franchise either. That's the other thing too. I mean, he is your new face, right? I don't know if he's. I mean, he's done supporting roles and everything, but is he a lead? That's the key thing. And who are you going to introduce? Right? I mean, there has to be, yeah. So there's something, yeah, look, I think, and mind you, they're going to make another one. So it will be interesting to see what happens. After Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, I think action films will be dead. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that Tom Cruise, for what he does and how he does it, he doesn't have an equal. And I wouldn't be shocked if this one doesn't blow up, the next one will, because it is the final one. And it also depends on where they leave it. Because you looked at franchises that have done it right, and it's fantastic, and then you've had franchises that have done it wrong, and you go, what are you thinking? Franchises that have done it right, I was just talking about Infinity War and Endgame. Harry Potter did it right, but those that have done it wrong was Hunger Games. That was a terrible ending, too. I mean, so, and I think that's going to be more relevant too, to see that. So I agree with you. The only other person that could hold a candle to him, maybe, would be Keanu Reeves. Maybe. Because Liam Neeson, he's not doing action anymore. He's not doing that premiere Taken. I mean, you look at what he did after Taken. Nonstop, Run All Night, The Gray. didn't live up to that. Taken was his premium thing. Do you think any old MCU guys will make an appearance in Secret Wars Kang Dynasty? You know, no. No, I don't. Because so Scarlett Johansson has said she's done. Okay. Um, I think Robert Downey Jr., by the way, if he were to appear in it, I think it would cheapen the arc of his character. I mean, what they did with that one character arc over the past 10, 12 years was incredible. I mean, the last words in Iron Man in 08, I am Iron Man. The last words he says in Endgame, I am. There's not a better character arc over a longer period of time than Tony Stark. And bring back Mark Ruffalo, and it just didn't work. It wouldn't work. So I think the answer to your question there, RL, is no. I don't think they will. Oppenheimer is going to bomb at the box office. Really, you think that? Because I think that this is a real chance. I mean, look, I'll say this much. Oppenheimer, the reason why they're releasing it now is because there's so much stuff coming out at the end of the year. I mean, you look at the whole year. I was just going through some of the films in the spoiler cast about them. You've got Equalizer coming out in September. You've got The Courier coming out in September. You've got the new Haunting in Venice coming out in September. Then in October, okay, November and December, you have films like Wonka. You have The Color Purple. You've got Dune Part 2. You've got Killers of the Flower Moon. So I think the reason why they had to put it in July was because it was so stacked. So, but to say it's going to bomb, it is Christopher Nolan. Now, I will say one thing to your point, Kevin. This is not fantastic material. This isn't Batman he's doing. Okay? The thing is that nobody, at least most Americans, and I'll be frank, I didn't either. Most Americans did not. I mean, when they say the atomic bomb, they think of the Manhattan Project. They don't know who developed it. So it is very difficult subject matter. So no one doesn't make films either for money. Just doesn't. He makes it for art. I mean, yes, he did a whole Batman franchise, but look at all the other films he's done. He's done Dunkirk. He's done Interstellar, Memento, Inception. These are films that, are really quality films that don't get a lot of awards. So I think that if the film does do well, even without reaching $1 billion, I think it's going to be okay. I think the $1 billion factor has become a thing that after Avatar did in 09. More than 850. No, I agree with you. Avatar changed the game. Avatar changed the game. The way we look at box office. And I'm guilty of this too. And it's how, because you have pre-pandemic and you have post-pandemic. And I mean, I don't know the number off the top of my head. Maybe somebody can go get it for me. How many films after the pandemic have opened to $100 million prior to the pre-pandemic? So, I mean, you have that in itself. The dollar, when it comes to these things, is that much more valuable. So if you were able to make 2 to 3 times your money on it, then absolutely. And I think billion is, you hit the nail on the head with Avatar. Avatar changed the game, totally changed the game as far as visually, as far as story, as far as everything else. And you had the backing of James Cameron with, films like Aliens, Terminator 2, The Abyss. So they knew his name. So, I mean, he's the best director, Oscar winner. So, Blue Beetle and Meg 2 team. Blue Beetle, I'm not sure about. I'll say that I think projections right now, we don't know projections, but right now, I always say this: previous results often dictate future outcomes. I always said back in March that, I mean, Shazam 2 made $236 million worldwide. And I said that the opening of Shazam 2 is going to have an effect on the Flash, even with all the other things surrounding it. What ended up happening? It only made $55 million, and it dropped another 66%. It was in eighth place this weekend, guys. Eighth place. Okay. That being said, that's going to have a hard time. Blue Beetle's going to have a hard time, even if it is the first character by James Gunn in that whole unit. It's going to have a very hard time. The Meg 2, that was more of a sensation. Okay, the Meg is one of those. I mean, it's Jaws. It's a giant Jaws type of thing. So that was kind of like a cult classic sensation type of thing. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think, is going to be interesting because you have some people behind it, and it is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, is it as big as, let's say, Mario? No, but there's that nostalgia factor there. So I think there's something to be said about that too. So, but I will say one thing though. Okay, August is very soft. You only have a couple movies that are really coming out, and you named both Blue Beetle and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it will be interesting to see what happens with that. There was a time when films made 300 million and they were successful enough. But then again, different kind of budgets and different. Definitely, Antonius. Absolutely. Because we have, I mean, you take a look at this year alone, right? The Flash was budgeted at 200, but some say 250. Okay. You have Indiana Jones that was budgeted at 295, 297 million. You had Fast X that was budgeted $340 million. That's $1 billion right there. Now, it's one of those things where the more you spend, the more you have to make. And there's a difference between spending it, okay, and not getting something on your return, and then spending it and then, let's say, have an Avatar, right? So that's why these littler films, these smaller films, okay, like Barbie. Barbie only cost $100 million to make. That's going to be a success, financially success, okay? And you're going to have word of mouth and everything else. So that's going to do well. But these movies like Fast X, okay, they can't spend as much money. They can't. And, I mean, they're losing money. I mean, they're losing money hand over fist. What is DC going to do if this Blue Beetle doesn't do well? How do they go about it? That'll be an interesting little point. I wonder if Paramount's thinking about Rise of the Beast box office. They're happy with just a return. I mean, I think that you got to understand something too, Plush. This is going to make a lot of money overseas. So they're going to make their money back. It's a matter of how it does domestically. Because we in the United States, we are very finite and are very, very petty about things. Whether it's a uniform that doesn't look right or a car that isn't, the right color or whatever it is. So I think that, I mean, I'll be honest, one of the things that when I remember way back in 07 when the first one came out and we saw Bumblebee, and I'm an 80s guy all day long. And I remember Bumblebee was this Camaro. I'm like, what are they doing? But they had it modernized the time, right? So yeah, I think they'll be fine in that respect. Kathleen Kennedy will leave Lucasfilms eventually. Yes, I agree with that. I mean, it depends. Honestly, I think it depends on how Dial of Destiny does. I really do, because this is the only Lucasfilm film coming out for a couple of years. I mean, excuse me, we've got a bunch of Star Wars films coming out, but they're not for a few years. She'll leave. I mean, I think, and by the way, if I'm her, I leave after this anyways. I don't have to deal with any more Star Wars. Or at least appoint your replacement. Get a short list going. Personally, I don't. Yeah. Personally, I don't want variants to do undue deaths because they ultimately, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where when you, one thing I have a problem with, especially with Marvel, okay, especially with Marvel, if you kill somebody, stay dead. Stay dead. Don't bring them back. That's my one gripe with them. The Flash has made somewhere around 245 million in the box office. It hasn't reached the 266 at Batman Returns. Yeah, I mean, this will be lucky, and I say this will be lucky to get 350. They're going to have to make a lot of this up on VOD. They will. They will. I mean, when you're having a fire sale in the second week, buy one, get one ticket to the Flash. You know there's problems. And, you know, DC is in trouble. I mean, I feel very sorry for James Gunn, and he's going to have to come out of the gate with this absolute, what I think would blow everybody away. I mean, it's kind of short notice, but now that he has chosen his Superman, what I would do as a fan, or what I'd like to see be done, is put an end credit scene with Superman. You want to get people in the door? I mean, all you go for it. I think that's what you do. I think that's what you do. I think you put Superman in there as an end credit scene. I think that would blow everybody away. So I'm sure there's going to be references, but that would blow everybody away. Fast and Furious movies having such high budgets is kind of insane. They need to tone down those films. Plus, killing people and bringing them back is the most outrageous way. Is a problem. I agree. So here's a little fact. Okay, the whole budget. So the whole salary amount of Fast 10 was $55 million. Now you say, my God, that's a lot of money. It is. But here's the thing, and I did the back research on this. Vin Diesel got 20 million. He's the head honcho. So okay. Statham, for what he was in this film, got $15 million. Okay. Michelle Rodriguez got $3 million. She's been with the franchise for 21 years. And she got $3 million. Brie Larson got $2 million. John Cena got, I think, $1 million. Brie Larson got $1 million. She doesn't need the money. I'm just saying. But the thing is, you had all these. Ludacris got 750,000. You had all these people doing this, and Gal Gadot, I think, made, I don't know, $500,000 for a little 30-second cameo. So, because here's the thing, the reason why these budgets are so high, I mean, you even take Indiana Jones, the CGI and the de-aging process. That's all. There's a difference between spending $100 million budget and using that, and then have it be $100 million of CGI. Now you say, well, Mission Impossible's got a huge budget too, right? But they do everything practically. Everything practically. Okay? Whether it's, they built a train, literally built a train for that scene. But they do everything practically. So Pixar will have a comeback. I have no doubt it will, but it's going to take time. They have to get reconditioned to come back to the theaters, to want to go see Pixar again. So, and to be frank, original stuff's not doing well. That's why it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this Ilio and then Wish down the road, even though that's Disney. But animation itself, I think, is struggling big time. Dom's family is too big and too expensive. You know, it is. It really is. Because the thing is that he doesn't need all these people. I mean, don't forget about something else, guys. I wouldn't be shocked to see Kurt Russell in the next film. Right? Because he's, Mr. Nobody, and that Brie Larson's his daughter. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw him, in the next film at some point. The thing with DCU and DC in general is enough to make anyone feel depressed. I'm just hoping that either Blue Beetle or Aquaman 2 close the franchise with a big critical franchise. So, what I'll say is this. I think that Aquaman has some unrealistic expectations because that made $1 billion. And I think that with everything coming out of that film, I think everybody's hoping it's going to do $1 billion, and it's not. Okay? If it makes, somebody was saying earlier, if it makes 500, 600, 700, $800 million, that's great. Okay? They really need to start this new franchise out with a bang. They really do. And that's why I don't blame James Gunn for The Flash. I really don't. I mean, yeah, he said what he said, but that was under a completely different regime. Okay? For me, it starts with Superman Legacy. If he comes out and hits a home run with Superman Legacy, and I have all the faith in the world in James Gunn, okay, let's see him cook. Let's see what he does. But, and that's the thing. But I think what you have to do, in all honesty, is just scrap everybody. I mean, you've already gotten rid of Cavill. You've got to get rid of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. You got to get rid of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. You have to get rid of some of these other people to completely eliminate them. That's just me. The DCU is crazy, so much failure and so much, yeah. And here's the thing: everybody wants Zack Snyder to come back. He isn't coming back. So, Gal Gadot had 3 cameos. Wow, she did? Okay, yeah. So she did The Flash. She did Fast and Furious. And I'm trying to think of the other one. But no, you're right. You're right. That's interesting. I don't see her coming back as Diana more than Giselle. Don't get me wrong, I love the character, but I feel it undermines the emotion of her sacrifice from Fast 6. It's good, but also kind of cheap. Yeah. It does. It really does. So, I mean, I don't know. It's all gonna. I Blue Beetle and Aquaman, I'm not worried about. It is Superman Legacy. That is the one that I'm. And now that we have them, now that we have the 2 casts, I'm curious to see who they get for Lex if they go that direction. That would be a fascinating thing too. Not everyone wants. Yeah, okay, you're right. Truth be told, there are some out there that want Zack Snyder to come back in some capacity. Because they want him to finish the story or whatever else. That all being said, I think that he's doing his own thing with Rebel Moon and Netflix, and by the way, I wish him well. Okay. There are those people that Snyderverse, and I was saying this on Matt's podcast the other night, or Matt's stream the other night. They're the fringe. They're the 1%ers. They're true believers. You can tell them the sky is blue and they'll think it's green. They want such extremes. And then they'll perpetuate it You know, it was like I was watching Training Day the other day. Not Training Day, Draft Day. And there's a scene where one of the guys is talking to Sonny, the main character played by Kevin Costner. And they said, well, he taped $100 bill to the back of the playbook to make sure all the guys read it. And they're like, you know, well, most guys will lie and say, oh, I read the whole thing. And they ask him about the $100. He's like, oh, okay. And he says he's the only guy, talking about this guy that they were thinking about drafting. He's the only guy to lie about it and then have the balls to stick up for the lie. It's the same premise. That the Snyderverse are only people to lie and then stick up for the lie. So, Walt Disney Studios' upcoming film Haunted Mansion might be a sleeper hit. Snow White will make more money. Mufasa will make $1 billion. You know, after I saw what I heard, and they're going to do Bambi, I went, oh, God. Bambi? Really? Haunted Mansion, I have no doubt will do well. I think that, but it all depends on who they get to play Snow White too. So that will be interesting. I love Snyder, but I kind of feel mad at times when people ask him to return constantly. Has anyone ever thought that maybe he's happy? Yeah, and I think that's the thing. They're so infatuated with this man that they won't let him have his happiness. You know, I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute. What if he comes back? What if he came back and he made another film and it wasn't as good as they wanted? Right? What would happen? What would happen? They would be pissed. They would be pissed. Oh, the studio got involved, blah, blah, blah. They would be pissed. So you can't please them in any way. But yeah, I mean, he's saying to it, yeah. Oh, Rachel Ziegler. Okay. Interesting choice. Okay. I mean, look, we'll just have to see, you know, we'll just have to see how things go. So I think that's a fascinating choice. People think if Snyder returns all the problem. No. I I think those people that are Snyder fans think that, but it's definitely you got to understand. To your point, look at how many films have made $2 billion at the box office. No, and by the way, I know that I agree with you. I'm just saying, but there's no way. There's only been 4 films to make. I mean, Maverick only made, I'd say, only $1.5 billion. Spider-Man: No Way Home, only $1.5 billion. Yeah, he is the most polarizing person in Hollywood, hands down, hands down. And look, I love Man of Steel. I mean, I was just watching Dawn of Justice the other day. Batman versus it's not a bad movie. I mean, I hadn't seen it in quite a few years. It's not a bad movie. It's gritty, it's down to earth, but it's not a bad movie. So, I mean, I think that it all depends. I mean, the landscape has changed for Hollywood and feature films. And moving forward, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in 2024, especially with the strike. Because the longer the strike goes on, we are going to hit a wall at some point. That's not even an issue. We're going to hit a wall. And, I mean, Disney's had to push back Avatar and Star Wars and Marvel's dropped productions. And the longer this goes on, the longer that, things get pushed back. at some point, you're going to start to see. And look, it's all going to get made and all going to be done at the same time, but they need to get this done. They really do. The Marvel's domestic run between 450 to um yeah, I mean I think 400 to 450 sounds right for domestic. I don't know about a billion night. I think that's a little high, only because I mean Miss Marvel made not Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel made 1 billion, 1.1 billion. That was because you didn't have that kind of female empowerment star up until that point because of Ike Perlmutter. Okay. And same thing with Black Panther. That made $1 billion. Both good films. But I think the problem is when the expectation of you making $1 billion, it's like Aquaman. Aquaman made $1 billion. So they're all saying, okay, we're projecting this to hopefully do $1 billion. But it's difficult. It's difficult to repeat that same success that you had. I mean, you take a look at the last Batman trilogy. That's why Nolan did what he did. He didn't put all on the table to start. He gave you just enough. Okay. Batman Begins, which was a very good movie. And then, of course, The Dark Knight is legendary. And then The Dark Knight Rises is a good movie. It's a good movie. So, um, Dawn of Justice remains my favorite DC. Yeah, I liked, I like Dawn of Justice. I mean, now I will say one thing. There's only 8 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes of Batman and Superman fighting. The rest is just dialogue and setup and everything else. So I mean, I wish that would have been my one negative about that, but also DCU did so bad that Gal Gadot and Dwayne Johnson returned back to Fast and Furious franchise. That's how bad it went and left their universe. But it's time for a reboot. Luke, here's the thing. Dwayne Johnson. Hey, Meadow, how are you? Um, Here's the thing. Um, the thing is, Dwayne Johnson tried a power play. He tried a power play, and he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And Cavill wasn't happy with the creatives of The Witcher. He wanted more control, and that's one reason why he left. But the thing is, he basically said to Henry, "Look, you can come back as Superman." And that was before James Gunn and Peter Safran came in, and they said, "No, whoa, slow down." And that's why that whole thing happened the way it did. And then Dwayne had to do damage control on top of, okay, on top of Black Adam, which was a disaster. Not only monetarily, but then, we find out later on that his team tried to fudge the numbers, okay? And then when that didn't go well, what happened? He said, "Oh, I'm going to go back to Universal and to try a power play there." And that's when he comes out and says, "Oh, yeah, we're doing a spin-off movie." Like, really? This is what you're doing? No, not not sorry. He right now is not, you know, I mean, I was just watching that Money in the Bank wrestling thing the other night, and Zena came back, and I'm like, he came back and they loved him. I think Dwayne should just take a break. But don't forget too, okay? He just invested what 150 million dollars in the XFL, so he's trying to get that working too. Um, it's one of those things where saw BBS. I think Ben Affleck's Batman was peak in performance, suit, and basically themes in that movie. Although his role in the next installment were good. Yeah, it is. And the reason why it was so good is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was grounded. Number two, you had the setup. Okay. And number three, it's like they just took it right out of the comics. Right? That was that whole, do you bleed? well, you will. I mean, just so, yeah. I mean, it was really good. DC animated is the best thing that, yeah. I love Harley Quinn. I love Harley Quinn. I think I was in the middle of season 3 when I stopped, but I really, really enjoyed Harley Quinn. So, Aquaman: The Last King domestic, 250 international. Yeah, I mean, that's probably a good a good measure. I mean, because you got to look at it like this. Look at what the Flash and Shazam did. So, it's one of those things where I think that's going to be a big, big thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think that the more the more hype there is to. I mean, I don't see. Maybe it's me, but Blue Beetle, you know, I think it's because I won't say unknown character, but it's a character that isn't, everybody's too familiar with. Um, Look, I hope it does well. I really, really do. Um, and it's gonna have it's gonna make its money, but it's gonna make its money overseas if nothing else. You know, um, Plush brings up Creature Commandos too. That's a big thing too, and how he said he was going to integrate the live action with the video games with the animation. It's a tough task. I would give him being James Gunn 4 to 6 years. After Superman Legacy years. So by 2021 or 2023, 2031, that's when you'll start to see things start to really come together. The real reason why actors such as Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and others succeed was because they did other stuff too. As much as I like The Rock going for one, no, it is. It's not only wrong. It's, I mean, Schwarzenegger, for example, he went out and he did comedy for a period during his career, right? He did Kindergarten Cop, he did Twins, he did, you know, he even did True Lies, which was an original. Um, and he did campy movies too, right? He went out and did The Running Man and everything else, but he also did your major blockbusters, Predator and Conan and all these others. But yeah, I mean, Stallone, he will always be known as Rocky and Rambo, but he went out and he started the whole Expendables by himself. And now we got our fourth one coming out in September. That's his franchise. So, The Little Mermaid will get Oscar nominations for Best Original Song. Yeah, I could see that. I could very easily see that. So, oh, definitely, definitely Color Purple. Definitely will get nominations. Um, it's got a lot of competition. That's another movie that's coming out on Christmas. It's got a lot of competition. A lot. So you have Dune. You have all these other films. You have Killers of the Flower Moon. You have Wonka. You have, you know, oh, it's like wow. That's why I tell people it's going to be a stacked rest of the year. You need to make something on your own, not take someone else's that's already ready and packaged for someone else. I just think Jumanji worked because The Rock did something. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And that's a big thing. And it showed what kind of chops he has comedically. So, no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. My fan casting for Fantastic Four. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It would be. Um, I don't like the fact they redid Color Purple. They should have. Here's the thing, Mel. At the end of the day, there are three things that drive Hollywood: reboots, remakes, and sequels. If you can bring this for a new generation, then do it. Especially like A Color Purple, which is a very powerful movie. Okay, in thing. I don't like the fact they're doing it in a musical fashion, but if it works, it works. Should have left it alone a lot of, but yeah, look, yeah, I know. I mean, it's not to say it can't get remade either. I'm not saying they can't remake it, but it was a different time, right? When 1985 and 86, and then you have it now, completely different. And I think that's a major thing too. So, by the way, I never did answer your. I never did it. Um, let's see. Well, if we're gonna go with, let's just. I wouldn't. Margot Robbie, I don't think would be a bad Sue Storm. Um, probably. Hmm. You know what? I hadn't even thought about it because number one, it was so far out, but number two, it's one of those things where I think they have to cast one first. And by the way, this is why I don't do fan casting because I'm always of the impression that it's you can't put X actor in Y story. If it fits, it fits. You don't want to put the round peg through a square hole. So I don't even know because it's so far out. That one's I'm not dodging you. I honestly don't have any idea. Let me think about that. I'll come back to you on that. Have you seen the Batman animated series from 2004? I finished it today, and it's a very amazing and underrated series. The Dracula versus Batman, especially. Yeah, I've not seen. I know of it. I know Kevin Conroy used to do the voice, but I've not seen it. And everybody says it's top quality. So maybe that's one I'll check out after Harley Quinn. The DCU is a great adventure that was done with compassion, love, and extreme carefulness when it comes to universe for DC, and that's animation. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that the other thing too is I think they're just trying to interconnect things too much. I mean, why the Batman works so well is because it was completely detached. Look at Joker, completely detached. That made $1 billion. Not to say that's a, but in the Joker is one of those popular villain type of things. But yeah, I think that they just need to take a step back from the expanded universes and everything else and just do solo stuff. I mean, Matt Reeves knew what he was doing with that. So, um, do we have any new? So they just started. If I heard correctly, they just started filming Venom 3 the other day, and I don't know why because they're basically going to have to shut down. Um, and new info on Madam Web. I don't know about that, but my guess is you could possibly see her in Craven just because of the trailer with those spiders coming down. That's about the only thing I could say. Batman, that I have seen. That I will agree with you on. It is fantastic. The other one I really like is Killing Joke. That is one of my more favorite ones. Disney Searchlight Picture will Oscar for Poor Things, Best Actress for Emma Stone, Best Picture for Golden X Win. Uh, I'm more interested in that film for Michael Fassbender. I really want to see him do well and back to where he was back in 2015. Um, and I think that not only does he need a win, but they need a win. And I think that's the important thing. Um, and I think that's really a forgotten movie, to be absolutely honest. Like, not a lot of people know that that's coming out this year or coming out in general. So, Venom 3 seems to be directly continuing where No Way Home left the character. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's one battle, and this is where I think Spider-Man 4 could go. Is Venom and Spider-Man. Look, I've always said this. Okay, my theory was when that Challengers trailer dropped, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. I have a theory. That my prevailing theory is this: that up until this point, Zendaya has always been that love interest, or whatever it is. But my prevailing theory is they want to see how well she's going to be able to do as a lead. Because, and by the way, guys, complete speculation, no rumors, nothing. But if you look at one of the producers on that, it's Amy Pascal. I wouldn't be shocked or surprised, depending on how well that film does, to see Zendaya get a whole MJ picture by herself. I think that that's an absolute possibility. Now, mind you, I have no backing behind that, but I think that there is a definite chance that could happen because everybody loves her. Michael Fassbender has a film with Arnold Schwarzenegger called Kung Fury 2. I'm hoping that someday it gets released because it's gone through some lawsuits that were interesting. I never even knew that. That's fascinating. 20th Century Fox upcoming Haunted Venice, the creator. Yes. So I saw both those trailers today. I can't wait for the creator. I can't wait. So anybody who doesn't know what the creator is about, okay, it is about, well, it partially has to do with AI. And so it's a bomb. Okay, this child is a bomb. And it is, if they beat this certain race, they can take back the human race. And so John David Michael, I believe, no, John David Washington, he actually is the one that protects the child. Very, very cool story. Haunted in Venice, I didn't even know was coming out. So anybody who's not familiar with Haunted in Venice is the one that Kenneth Branagh, who's also directing this picture, coming back and playing Poirot. This is a murder mystery. And he's at a seance and somebody dies. So he has to figure out who came. It's Glass Onion. Those murder mysteries are becoming very, very popular right now. Very popular. The Venom movies are probably the best of the Sony Spider-Man universe, so I'm intrigued about. I love Tom Hardy. I love Tom Hardy in that. The fact that he's able to do both. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. September 15th. I know it's. Yes, September 15th. September 15th. Yeah, September 15th. That's when that comes out. Also, the creator looks. Yes, it does. It looks really cool. Can't wait for Dad. No, and Dad, who's in here, I think, or he's watching that. No, everybody's waiting for Deadpool 3. Everybody. And that has a chance to do huge numbers. Huge numbers. So I can't wait for that either. I think it's going to be fantastic. I mean, just the amount of payoffs. I hope they take their time with it. I mean, it's going to come out next year, so they might have to do some rewrites and everything else. But Deadpool 3 is going to be insane. It is. It absolutely is going to be insane. And that's because of Ryan Reynolds. I mean, the reason why that did, Deadpool did so well is because they stuck with it, right? If they had made Deadpool a PG-13 character, fans would have rioted. They would have rioted. So when Deadpool 2 comes out and it does relatively good, not as good as the first one, but still funny, it's still there. And now you have this. The one I think everybody's looking forward to is Blade, though. Hugh Jackman is sporting his famous beers. Yeah, yeah. I can't wait for this. It's going to be so much fun. And we're going to get hit with all these great movies, too, right around the same time. So, Bob Iger will stay. Oh, no, he's going to. He's absolutely going to, Kevin. There's no doubt. I'm sure right now they're working on a short list right now and saying this is who we want. So his original plan was to stay on until the end of 2024. It's probably going to be longer now because he wants to make sure everything's copacetic with the strike. So Wolverine returning. It's just a big moment for me. Can't wait to see him again. Second R-rated film, Hugh Jackman. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, and it's one of those things where Marvel knows what they have in their hands, but I think the one everybody's looking forward to is Blade. That's the one because we know who's playing Blade. We have had this thing pushed back, pushed back, and pushed back, and pushed back. And now the writer's strike. It's like, come on already. So, not so much. I'm going to say New World Order. Not so much the new Captain America movie because it's important, but also that was down the road. Thunderbolts is going to be good. Anything Marvel coming up? I mean, obviously, the one everybody's looking forward to, Kang Dynasty. And it's all going to hinge on what happens with Jonathan Majors. All going to hinge on Jonathan Majors. 2024 will be great for Marvel movies. Yeah, definitely. Even 2025, Antonius. Even 2025. With all this stuff getting pushed back the way it is, absolutely. Also, wanted to ask you, what did you think about the whole third act of Dial Dynasty with the Greeks and all? Personally, I'm conflicted. I enjoyed some new, but it was also very odd. Okay. Okay, so this is going to go into spoiler territory, guys. If you don't want to listen or get spoiled, leave and come back in like a few minutes. I want to answer this for him. So my biggest problem with that, Antonius, was I didn't have a problem with the Greeks. My problem is they waited so long to use it. So it was a 2-hour and 25-minute movie. And they waited till the last 20 minutes to use it. There was that scene on the boat too, when they're talking. Indy and her are talking. And she says, well, what if you could turn back time? And he says, well, I would go back and talk to my son. And I would tell him not to join because his mother would be inconsolable and everything else. And so I really wish they had done something with that. So yeah, I was okay with it. I just thought, the ending of that movie too, they tried the same thing in Endgame. I mean, Endgame pulled it off, but they tried to do the same thing, and I think that was a problem for it because it just didn't have the same gusto. So yeah, hit pieces on Paramount Pictures losing money. They merge it with another. That's a possibility. I mean, look, when you're making $1.5 billion from like from a Top Gun Maverick last year, they still have 2 more Mission Impossible movies to make, or 1 more at least. But they'll be fine. I would be shocked if we heard a merger. Now, they did actually, to your point though, they did just merge with Showtime. They merged with Showtime, so now you go to Paramount Plus and find that there. But I can't see them doing that. Speaking Greek, it's sounding a little odd. People were laughing. Well, I mean, here's the thing: it's always going to be if you're not of Greek descent, it's going to be difficult. So they have to learn a different language. It's difficult. I don't fault them for that. Hey, look, I couldn't speak a tune of the language, so we need Brave New World to be amazing. I wonder how this will be affected by Superman. Yeah, I mean, one of the big things is that Marvel likes to, whatever it is. I think it'll be fine, and I think it will be very, very good. So, I mean, obviously, I can't wait for a new Secret Invasion next week. So that's going to be fun. I know that you haven't seen Crystal Skull, but we've seen some. Yes, I will. I was kind of disappointed how Dial and Destiny used Mutt. So I don't know this. So somebody in the chat tell me, is Mutt, was that supposed to be Indy's son? Because that's the only thing I could think of when he was talking with that sequence that I was just describing, that could have been his son. And did he die in the film? Because that's the only reason why that would happen. I love Indy 4, and it's my favorite. So the movie's kind of disregarding his son and Karen Allen. Now, I did know that. It's just kind of disappointing to me, but that moment in the end, yeah. I knew. As soon as they were going back, I went, yeah. But see, that's what I said about the callbacks. That's what I said about the callbacks. The callbacks were done perfectly. Okay? Whether it was that callback or the callback of okay, so he is his son. Okay, that's good to know. But whether it's whether it was the end of that, or it was the scene in the cave, yeah, they placed the callbacks perfectly. You know, I liked that. Yeah, I mean, there were good elements about this film. There really were. Warner Brothers needs to come back, but I have a feeling they will get sold off. The way Zaslav's going, I wouldn't doubt it. Excuse me, I wouldn't doubt it. He is. But the other thing too is, he's a businessman. Remember that. He's not somebody who knows movies. He has dollars in his eyes. He doesn't know anything about that. Callbacks were done very good. You're right, especially yes. He's like, you know, I've been shot at 9 times. Even your father shot me. I've had to drink the blood of Kali. You know, I've been whipped. Yeah, no, they were done very. I think Mangold says he did a good job. I mean, this is not his best work. I thought there was some cluttery, you know, things, but it was good. So Warner Brothers needs to do a whole reboot. Isn't that what they're doing now, Metal? You know, I mean, I thought they were trying to reboot the whole thing, but yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think that I think Indy will win next weekend too, and I think it'll do much better than Flash. So, I also wanted to see him fight the big guy like he fought Rush and Crystal Skull, but I understand they wanted to keep toned down. Yeah. Well, don't forget, he fought that big guy in Temple of Doom too. Remember when he's on the rock crushing thing? So I mean, that there always seems to be a couple motifs, right? Him not liking snakes. I mean, you even had the callback of the bugs in Temple of Doom in when they're going through the thing. So they placed them really really well. I mean, and that's good storytelling. That's good movie making. So I think there's something to be said about that. So out of the three endings his character got, which was your favorite? Force Awakens, Blade Runner 2049, or Dial of Destiny? Hmm. Um. If I'm going to be a sap, I'll say Dial of Destiny. Um. I think that Force Awakens, he kind of had run its course, like up until that time. Um. So, but yeah, yeah, I would probably say Dial of Destiny. I know I'm a sap, but I would say Dial of Destiny. I mean, it's not the way I would say because of the callback. He ran his course all the way through Force Awakens. So it's not like he showed up in the second act and then only had a certain amount. He was there pretty much. Um, I haven't seen Blade Runner 2049. That's a Vinu movie I've got to sit down and watch. But yeah, so I would say Dial of Destiny. Also, the Wolverine is, yes, that's another one I have to sit down and watch. Oh, yeah. Actually, I got spoiled. I got spoiled by somebody. I read something somewhere and I found out. I'm like, okay. But yeah, I mean, he was good in it. I was just watching, I was just turning through the channels and actually Force Awakens was on. And yeah, I was just, but yeah, he's had a phenomenal career. I really admire seeing old heroes join them. Yes. And that's why they're called, it's fascinating. We always take like, um, you can take roles, you can take lines in movies and apply them to everyday life. And that's one of them. I was unfortunate. Yeah, I hate when people do that. I really do because they ruin the experience for everybody, and that's not good at the end of the day. And it costs the studio a lot of money. So, but okay, so it is just about an hour and a half. So, a couple of things. Um, Number one, perfect movies. I'm still on the fence what I want to do for it. I have an idea. I have a couple of films in mind. So I will definitely be getting that out in the next week or 10 days for sure. Number two, um, I'll be putting out a tweet probably tonight about the new Patreon movies. Okay, so anybody who wants to vote on it, they're more than welcome. Or if they want to go to Patreon and support me, so there's two levels, $5 and $10. One is $5. That's Mob Mondays. If you go for the $10, you'll get both. $10 is Rewatch Wednesdays. Um, so you'll get both of those there. If you want to support me in another way, you can. That's not monetary. Please hit that like and subscribe button. That will definitely go a long way to get these videos out. And or you can go to the store and pick something up, whether it's a mug or a T-shirt or whatever it is. We do have some members in here, so thank you very much for being members. I'm trying to put together a little something to, like a little screen, so every time I stream, I can just plug it in, and then you guys will, see your name. I've been thinking about that because I know I said general support, but I also want to make sure you guys are noticed for your contributions. And yeah, so that's we so quickly the shows for next week. I'm going to be doing a couple shows next week. Okay, Thursday is going to be Secret Invasion Thursday, of course. Friday is going to be the final Mission Impossible film. Okay, it's going to be Fallout. Saturday, so we're going to be doing Ask Me Anything again next Saturday because there's not that major movie coming out, and then we'll figure out what's going on for the rest of the week. I'm always hoping for more adventures in every franchise, but you got to say goodbye eventually. That's the hardest part. Yeah, no, that is it's very hard, especially when you're emotionally vested, like a Tony Stark, like a Han Solo, like an Indiana Jones. So I think there's something to be said about that. Do you think all Hollywood actors and actresses really straight? What do you mean by really straight? What do I? I'll try to be here for it. Yeah, I can't wait for Fallout. I mean, Rogue Nation was amazing. And by the way, guys, you can go back and watch all of the Mission Impossible films that are on the channel. Sexuality. Do I think they're all straight? Um, I don't know. I don't know. You know what, Kevin? That's not for me to answer. That's not for me to answer because the thing is that that's their personal life. That's their how they, want to live their own life. And if they, I'll say this: in today's society, you don't know who is and who isn't. You just don't. The people you think are not, and the people you think that aren't are. So, but once again, though, it's not my place because it's not a matter of their sexuality; it's a matter of how talented they are. Right? Some of the most talented people in the world. So what if they're gay? And I understand you're not saying, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At least that's the way I look at it. Because the thing is that you have to look at the person, right? You have to look at the person themselves. And what other movies have you seen? I mean, I have a whole list right here. I need to sit down and really sit down and watch. I've got to sit down and watch Irishman. I probably will do that for Mob Mondays at some point. I've got to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, Apocalypse Now. I mean, there is a ton of movies that I have to see. So, by popularity, I mean, popularity is that's a whole other thing. So, I mean, yeah, I think it all depends on your exposure levels too. So, I think the best example of a hero dying nobly is the T-800 as he tried to keep his promise to Sarah, love his redemption arc for killing John Carlin, love Dark Fate. Yeah, I mean, and this is why I always go back to story. This is why I always go back to story. So, story is king because if you don't have a good story, you can't have a good movie. So, but okay, so it's just emotionally heavy when you hear the character. Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's why it's one of those things where, and you have all the movies too. As long as it's done well, then you know it makes it that much more powerful. So, okay, guys, so that's going to do it. But like I said, we got a bunch of shows coming up and everything else. Um, so thank you for joining me tonight, and do the three things that you have to do: be safe, be careful, have a great rest of the weekend, and if you do, don't forget to have a good, safe 4th of July. I am David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye bye, guys.